Tech and clips.
Yeah. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So shout outs to the channel behind the track. Dropped this video an hour ago. Queen didn't want this song released until Michael Jackson spoke. I'm wondering, what song that is, Yeah, so we're about to find out. This video's like 11 minutes and 46 seconds, so we better not waste time. Let's watch this together and definitely get my perspective about it at the end of the video. Let's go.
In 1980, Queen had just recorded a song that didn't sound like Queen at all.
Oh, okay. Another one bites the dust. Wow. Well, I was going to say it, but I wasn't too sure. Yeah, let's go.
No guitar solo, no layered harmonies, just a hypnotic bass groove and cryptic lyrics about a guy named Steve. The band wasn't convinced, except for one person, someone not even in the band. This is behind the track. The stories behind the songs, like you've never heard them before.
Yeah.
Let's go!
John Deacon was the last to join Queen in 1971. Shy, soft-spoken, and deeply insecure, he always felt like the outsider.
I came along in a way, I was a bit of an outsider at first. And it did take me quite a few years to sort of grow more into the group, and find myself at home, really.
He had backup plans. He studied electronic engineering, just in case the music didn't work out.
It was only a spare time thing, even with Queen, I really didn't expect it to take off, really,
He rarely spoke in interviews. He barely spoke at all, but he was listening and learning. At first, he only played bass, but Freddie Mercury encouraged him to write. Over the years, Deacon wrote fan favorites like You're My Best Friend, Spread Your Wings, I Want to Break Free, and Friends Will Be Friends. And in 1980, he brought in a song called Another One Bites the Dust. Deacon was hanging out at Chick's studio in 1979, fascinated by their song Good Times.
John Deacon and I were hanging out together, like partying the night before I did Good Times.
He loved the funk feel, the groove, the space. Then he thought, what if I wrote a funk song for Queen?
I started it off in England, actually. We had some time off, and I'd always wanted to do something a little bit more that was more sort of disco-y, really, which was very uncool at the time. It wasn't the sort of thing,
At first, he just scribbled ideas, phrases from old Western movies. One line kept coming back, another one bites the dust.
But luckily, in a way, it came out quite heavily. But I started it off with actually a completely different set of lyrics. It was all about cowboys, which is why the American phrase, another one bites the dust, came in, really. But then I thought that was very silly. I never even got to show that to the band. I decided to change it before then. So I changed the lyrics altogether.
The track needed darker lyrics, grittier energy, something cooler and heavier.
To bite the dust is a cowboy phrase. And that's all I had at first, just the line. And when we went in the studio, I had a set of lyrics I've never ever seen. I've never showed them to anybody. I was so embarrassed about them in the end. They were all about cowboys. And there's a little story, like at the end of each verse, another one bit the dust. But when we recorded it in Munich, we did the backing track, and it sort of came out, it was a bit heavier, really, whereas the cowboy thing was like a little bit more light-hearted and humorous. So I decided to change the lyrics.
Originally, he wrote the verses as a humorous Western pastiche, but something happened in the studio. When Queen began working at Musicland in Munich, the bass line came out heavier than expected, funkier, darker. So Deacon scrapped the comedy and rewrote the lyrics into something colder, a street fight, a betrayal, a slow emotional breakdown in 3 acts. Act 1, Steve walks warily down the street. Act 2, he's abandoned, heartbroken, furious. Act 3, he warns there are many ways to hurt a man. And yet, no one knew who Steve was. Was it a metaphor, a revenge fantasy, a breakup, a shot at the tabloids? Even Roger Taylor said later, we didn't really get it. But the groove? Oh, they felt it. Deacon had been hanging out in the studio with the band, Chick. The magic behind the groove wasn't just inspiration. It was a technique, what some now call the rhythm contrast method. Here's how it works. The bass line is rhythmically complex. The drums are dead simple, a steady disco beat.
Yeah.
That contrast creates pocket. It's what makes the song feel like it's constantly moving, but never overwhelming. And it was Deacon who insisted Roger Taylor keep the drums simple. Without that push, the groove might have never worked.
John got Roger to play with tape all over his drums, which is exactly what Roger hated. Roger hated his drums being made to sound dead.
In fact, we used, a drum loop, for the thing, because it was just so simple, and that's all I wanted all the way through, something just solid, really. And that was the way of doing it, because it wasn't the sort of music everybody, we played at all, really. And I think the band was as surprised as I was that it became so successful. I mean, especially in America.
Normally, singers avoid stepping on the bass rhythm, but not Freddie. He aligned his vocal phrasing with the bass, mimicking it.
And another one gone, and another one gone, another one bites the dust.
Yeah.
Layering his voice on top of the groove, not around it. It created a locked-in, almost mechanical swagger. Deacon didn't just write a groove. He made Freddie dance through it.
Freddie got deeply into it. Freddie sort of sang it until he bled, because he was so committed to making it sound the way John wanted it, which was like hardcore, I don't know what you would call it, but it's kind of more towards black music than white music.
There's a reason Another One Bites the Dust is instantly recognizable. It checks two simple boxes from the anthemic riff checklist. One, few notes, just 3 to 5. 2, notes close together so anyone can hum or sing it. Other riffs that follow this rule: Smoke on the Water, Seven Nation Army, We Will Rock You.
We will rock you.
Simple, iconic, infectious. John recorded most of the track himself. Bass, rhythm and lead guitar, piano, percussion. Brian May added guitar effects. Roger Taylor's drums were taped and looped, a technique he reportedly disliked at the time.
I didn't really want to get into dance music. It wasn't my thing.
Deacon didn't use his usual Fender Precision bass. For this track, he picked a Music Man Stingray, the same bass Bernard Edwards used on Good Times. The Stingray had a more nasal, punchy tone, perfect for disco funk. And yes, the entire recording was slightly sharp in pitch. Whether intentional or a byproduct of analog tape speed, it made the track sound brighter, faster, tighter. But still, Queen didn't think it should be a single. They debated it in the studio. And then came the backstage moment. After a concert in Los Angeles, Michael Jackson showed up backstage.
We were playing in the Forum, I think, in Los Angeles, and Michael Jackson used to come and sit in the corner and go like that. And he said, "You guys have got to release this." We actually said, "You guys, you got to release." So I said, "No, you're mad. That won't be a hit."
Roger Taylor wasn't convinced. He later said, "I wasn't enamored with it." I said, "You're kidding. That's never a single." But Freddie listened, and so did John. They took a chance. Was it a ripoff of Good Times? Maybe a bit. Chic came first, but Chic themselves were inspired by Hollywood swinging from Kool and the Gang.
Yeah.
And someone probably inspired them too. What Deacon did was take a bass line, simplify it, tighten it, reshape it into something instantly singable and impossible to forget. Queen released Another One Bites the Dust in August 1980. It became their biggest hit ever, #1 in the US, 31 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, over 7 million copies sold, their first major crossover into black and disco audiences.
Yes, it was taken up by a particular DJ in New York, wasn't it? And they put out a special, their own edit of it, I believe, on their radio station, and it just caught fire like a brush fire across the States. And obviously amongst the black community rather than the white community, which was a rarity. And I believe, I mean, it's kind of hearsay from my point of view, but apparently most of those black DJs who were playing it thought that we were a black group, thought that Freddie was black in the early days, and then it was kind of too late.
Some fans thought the singer was black. They didn't know Freddie yet.
I remember we were doing a run at Madison Square Garden at the time, and I remember being in the car in New York, and some of the some young black guys there, and they were going, "You guys are bad." I thought, oh, do they like us or not? You know.
Not everything about Another One Bites the Dust was planned. In fact, two of the most iconic details were complete accidents. The first came in the middle of the track, during the breakdown. Producer Reinhold Mack was experimenting with a digital effects unit called the Infernal Machine, on loan from a French manufacturer. He reached over to mute a track, and his finger slipped. The sound went straight through the machine, creating a strange, warped texture that no one had heard before. It wasn't intentional, but everyone loved it, so they left it in. The second mistake came at the very end. After the track was finished, after it had hit number 1, John Deacon pulled Mack aside. "It's not perfect," he said. Mack asked why, and Deacon replied, "At the very end, there's a hi-hat. I forgot to mute it."
Okay.
It's still there. If you listen closely to the final second of the song, you'll hear it. A tiny flaw on a flawless hit. The final tempo of the song, 110 beats per minute. That's the exact rhythm recommended for CPR chest compressions. It's now used in CPR training courses.
To achieve the correct tempo, some suggest thinking of the disco track, Staying Alive. Instead, I opt for Queen's Another One Bites the Dust.
They tried to repeat the formula with the Hot Space album in 1982.
Well, Freddie, could you describe exactly what your new sound is on Hot Space?
It's not totally new because it started off by John writing Another One Bites the Dust, which was on the previous album. And I think since then we sort of decided that we'd sort of carry on with that kind of sound. It's basically sort of me. I mean, it doesn't really travel through the group that way. It's sort of, we have individual approaches, really. I sort of opted out for that kind of sound.
But fans rejected the disco funk overload. Only years later did that album gain appreciation. Still, Another One Bites the Dust stands alone. Not just a song, a gamble, a transformation, a hit that came from the quietest man in the band and the boldest man in pop. Michael Jackson saw something in that groove, and because of him, Queen trusted it. They took the shot. He was right. Subscribe for more stories behind the songs, because sometimes the quiet ones write the loudest hits.
That's true. That is so true. All right. Yes. Queen didn't want this song released until Michael Jackson spoke. Shout outs to Behind the Track for this video. Wow, guys, this is one of those fascinating, behind the scenes stories, that make you appreciate legendary tracks even more. As a music reactor, as a music enthusiast, I'm always hunting for the why behind the songs that we all love, and this is definitely a prime example. Hearing that Queen was on the fence about releasing Another One Bites the Dust, which is the song which is the song this video covers, genuinely blew my mind. It's such a an iconic groove, a song that basically redefined their reach, especially in the US. And to think it almost never saw the light of day, to me is pretty wild. Michael Jackson stepping in and encouraging them to release it, shows just how powerful an outside ear can be. Sometimes artists are too close to their own work to see its potential, and it definitely takes someone with MJ's instinct to say no, this is definitely a hit. That crossover appeal is also very, very huge. Queen was a rock band, and this song had undeniable funk and R&B sort of elements. So MJ being a king of pop recognized its universal pull, and advised them to release it, and definitely worked. As a reviewer, as a reactor, I'd also point out how this highlights the importance of risk in music. Queen didn't stick to just rock anthems. They experimented, and thanks to Michael Jackson's nudge, we've got one of the most unforgettable bass lines ever recorded. Yes, I love this video. Yes, shout out to Behind the Track once again, for this video. Guys, let me know what you think about this video, this story, and let me know if you want me to continue doing, more of such reactions. I'll definitely be glad, to do just that. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. My name is Philip. On to the next reaction. Take care. Stay safe. Peace out.